The next question. Do you all believe the same thing doctrinally? How do you handle differences?
I think we've talked about that already to an extent. And because the common ground is Jesus high and lifted up and obedience to Him. And that's what Jesus said it had to be. Remember in Matthew 7, He said, the only foundation that will withstand a storm isn't common belief system, as wonderful as that would be. The only thing that will withstand the storm is a foundation of obeying Him, putting into practice His Word. That's the issue that the house has to be built on. If everybody's built on that foundation of putting into practice His Word and obeying Him, everyone loves the truth, then we can work out those things. And what you'll usually find is that there's a nuance, there's a character, there's a quality of some particular doctrine or issue that was important to me but not you, and vice versa, that somehow we can, if we're built on the common foundation of putting into practice His Word, of obeying Him in every small area of our lives, then we all grow in the depth of the wisdom of understanding. We don't have to subscribe to some certain set of things, because in a sense, you could probably say that every dogma of eschatology is wrong, and in a sense, every dogma of eschatology has a grain of truth to it. And someone has just taken one facet of the diamond, run off with it, and developed it into flip charts, and they've got it all figured out, which excludes all these other things, which also have elements of truth in them. It was like that in Jesus' first coming, that people did not have it all figured out. There were many scriptures that the New Testament shows us to be were prophetic inferences or statements of Jesus' first coming, about on a donkey and in Egypt and so on and so forth, that you say, how in the world could the New Testament say that was a messianic prophecy? Let another take his place of leadership. There's so many things that were quoted out of the Old Testament, even Joel chapter 2 and Acts chapter 2. They're quoted differently, and they're applied totally differently. You couldn't find tongues in Joel 2. There's no way. But, so basically, I guess what I'm saying is that just as it says in the book of Revelation that there's an opening of the scrolls, and this is that which was spoken of by the prophet Joel in Acts chapter 2. This is that. There's a way that God will help to lead us into an understanding. And that's exactly what it says in Ephesians 4. Those gifts are in place to do until the fulfillment of, we all reach unity of the faith, and that's the doctrinal issues and related things, and the full knowledge of God, epignosis, intimacy with God to an extreme, and the full measure of the stature of the fullness, the character of Christ, unto a complete man. Those things are things that God desires for us as a church and as individuals, and it's a process involved. We make every effort to keep the unity of the Spirit, and we grow by the gifts that God has given us as a church. We grow into a unity of the faith. So to make unity of the faith as the test of orthodoxy is really foolish, because we're not going to have unity of the faith without being compacted together. You can't have it. You can't decide, well, I'm not going to be compacted together until we have unity of the faith. Well, that's unbiblical process. We need to keep the unity of the Spirit and then be equipped into and grow into and emerge into as the this is that's from God's Spirit, as the Acts 15. It seems good to us in the Holy Spirit that this is what we do today. This is the kind of people we ought to be today because these things are true. That kind of thing God can apply in our lives in a spectacular way, which doesn't create unnecessary division. We all grow into the unity of the faith and an understanding of how all the facets, the manifold wisdom of God fits together in the church. Apart from the church, the pillar and foundation of truth, I fear for anyone that's flipping their flip charts and making these extreme statements about the way it has to be or else, when there's nobody in their life really to be involved in how they treat their children and their wife and how they are in the job and their attitudes and the way they present themselves and the things they think about and act upon and speak of. If it's not a fabric of life compacted together, which is the pillar and foundation of truth, then they're going to be off the deep end more than likely. If they're not now, they will be more than likely. So, these are things that we work out together, and that's why every conceivable background we're either in relationship from afar or locally here, because that's not the essence or the substance of our relationship. The rock that we build on is putting into practice His Word, not knowing what's going to happen next year or 10 years from now, or even being able to agree on what happened last year. It's putting into practice His will today that we agree on, and God works the rest of it out in our lives.